My man. He's connected.
Hello, hello.
Hello,
Hey,
hello. Our world
how's it going?
traveler. Just had the stuff open.
Sorry, trying to figure out my settings. I'm in the RV, so I'm on tethering. So that means I have to like change. I think I have to change Zoom to just not show video at all to make it reliable, if I remember correctly. It's been a while.
You can like call in. That's good enough for you with your phone.
Oh yeah, that's true.
You
Yeah.
sound great.
Oh, okay, good.
You
That's
sound great
Yeah,
right now. That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
So maybe don't call in.
yeah. Don't try an internet speed test or something. Just keep it that
yeah.
way.
Uh,
Yeah, now I'm remembering that's the deal. It actually doesn't allow you to turn off other people's video.
it's wild.
Okay, well, if I have problems, it's because I'm on cell, so just letting y'all know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Like this.
Right. I'll turn off all my fireworks animations I had planned, Wes, so it doesn't bog your bandwidth down.
Yeah, we gotta go to the black screen so we minimize and make the video compression encoding the best it can be.
Mhm. This is like one of the I do this so rarely, but I did a weird thing where I printed out the entire security report so I could actually like sit down and read it without having to
Yeah.
be distracted on the computer. It's 30 something pages though.
I have not yet had the chance to catch up on that.
Yeah. It's okay. Things have
Yeah.
been slow this summer.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I
just
think
got
also it's
off on
okay.
call last week. So
Yeah. I think we're good in time. I mean, I think officially finished the audit already, but I think they booked some time for us. I was planning to invite them for this Wednesday. If I mean for the next Wednesday session to talk about security and see where we are on the patches and stuff. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I saw your message, but I didn't quite follow, but I'm guessing it's probably because I haven't read the report.
probably
Okay.
that makes sense. Yeah, because there's a lot of references to like temporary IDs and stuff that they use. So yeah. Yeah, do we want to convert this session to security only and talk about the report? Hey, Blake.
yeah. All right, yeah. Yeah, I hear it. Sounds like an after holiday Monday hello. We just heard you like exhale. We didn't hear you say anything. You joined
How's
with
it
a
going?
groan. Good, man.
Join the meeting with a sigh.
Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. We almost have enough people right now. I put a comment in the issue, which I'll drop the issue link in case anybody's slow in pulling it up right now, just in general. The issue link for the meeting is in chat.
Yep.
I just, ooh, yeah. Chris took host again. Heck yeah, he's been hosting it up. My CIPR I just finally published. The one to get us off AppVeyor, to get Express off AppVeyor for Windows CI. Because AppVeyor just seems to be, I think that there's something broken and I don't think anybody has access to it. I left some comments in line. You can pretty much ignore the commits and the body description. I can give it a little TLDR about it, but I left some comments in line. The goal was just to switch over to testing on Windows and Linux in GitHub Actions. That necessitated switching from using pure NVM to set up Node to set up Node. The action is what I chose because it's cross-plat. It doesn't support IO.js, so I spun the IO.js testing into its own workflow file that does not do coverage. It only tests on Windows or on Linux. And I left some other inline comments. There's a couple of weird fixes I had to do that are just like Node version specific things or quirks of setup Node doesn't ship. Setup Node was not able to get npm with the Node binary on .10 and .12. So I have fixes for that where I just npmi-g the proper npm versions. But otherwise, the CI is very, very close to what it was before. There's some small tweaks, but it's largely the same. We're still collecting coverage the same way across all Node versions and all that stuff. So yeah, check it out. Let me know. I deleted the old CI as the final move of the PR. I'm happy to do that because of how close it is, but I would also be happy to just land it as an experimental CI and to keep running a regular CI, but I don't see any risk to do what I've done basically. So, but I'm super into that if we want to land the CI first and see if anything weird happens. But yeah, it was an odyssey. One of the body comment I have is like, I think this is going to take longer than the 15 minutes that I had when I opened this PR. And I was right about that. So yeah, learned a lot about GitHub Actions though. So I'm happy to keep working on our CI if we have needs there, etc. So
the nicest thing that I could think of that we could improve there is making it a shared workflow so that we can just import it into other repos instead of having to have this stuff all duplicated across. But probably not.
This particular one, I wouldn't do that with probably. I mean, we could, but this is the one this is the V4 CI. Let's put it that way. V5 CI can look a lot different because we're just testing so fewer versions, and it can be even way more streamlined, basically. The V5 CI does have the V4 CI does have some weird stuff like the installing dev deps that will actually run in the versions that we're testing Node with, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah. I'm trying to think if this one is general enough to be able to run on everything. Yeah, it would be very nice to drop all that. So like even the coverage we do, whatever. I'm not going to take up too much time with it. I've learned a lot about our CI. I'm not sure that I trust our coverage numbers. I trust them to a degree, but because we test across 20 different Node versions, like it blows our line coverage up a lot, basically. We get like 40, I dropped some files from coverage, like non-source files, because we were actually doing coverage on test files and benchmark files and all this stuff. But currently our CI reports 45,000 lines hit per line of source code, which is not right, basically. So we have really high coverage, but we only have 100% coverage when you test on every version because some versions don't exercise some branches, et cetera. So I would love to see us do coverage on LTS, essentially. But that's V5 stuff.
Unless we're actually blocking PRs on the coverage, though, which I don't think I have ever seen.
We don't.
Yeah. Then honestly, I'd say it might make more sense, unless we want to change that, which we could, but unless we want to change that, I think it'd make more sense just to run the coverage only on latest.
Yeah. Coverage is one of the last things I'm worried about right now anyways, so I just kept what we had set up basically without trying to untangle exactly what it all does. Because we report coverage in coveralls. So you can't get to the coveralls easily unless you know the URL. But we do host the coveralls 100% coverage badge, basically. So point is, Express has made not a guarantee, but has in the past said we have 100% test coverage. So, you know, trying to have high coverage, I think, is a good goal in general. But yeah, I haven't removed the AppVeyor stuff. Once we merge this, I can actually go in and totally remove the AppVeyor connection to the. Well, maybe I did do that. I can't remember now, but yeah. It's almost 10 after. Nobody said they were going to be late or miss that I'm aware of, so I'm not so sure that we're waiting on anybody. Here we go, Jean. We would be missing Rand. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I did start a minutes doc again. Then we added, based on discussion in Slack, I added Hero Dev's presentation update, just to talk a little bit about the Hero Dev's presentation that we got at the working session. Do we want to start with that, do you guys think? Or, I mean, I would be shocked if there's major updates on the V5 to-do list, basically. So I don't know. Well, but again, let's see. Does anybody have anything they want to bring up or put on the agenda?
Yeah, I have 2 questions for V5, but it's not urgent at all. I mean, even if we don't cover in this meeting, it's fine by me. So
let's throw them out. Why not? Let's talk V5 first. It should be the focus anyway. So
okay. Yeah, let me share the screen a moment so everybody's in the same page. But yeah, basically there are like new topics to discuss. Let me see. Sharing my screen, desktop 1, I guess. Yeah, this will be able to see. Yeah, right. Yeah, basically new discussions are here basically. So one is regarding the generator, which I'm not very sure. I didn't open this one, but yeah, definitely we need to do some rework on the generator. That's okay, but not pretty sure why and how. So if anybody remember what it is, we can keep it. On the other side is there is one pending topic from Wes on this about the settings functionality, move it out of the core. So the idea was to have a discussion, I think a small discussion about the best way to do that. Wes, do you remember this one?
I do. And so the main issue with that one is that I moved it into a separate library, like that I owned, just because at the time it was just trying to proof of concept it out. It was not necessary to move it out. So one way we could land this would be to move that just remove the library, but just move the code right into the Express repo. That's, I think, a fine way. The other thing with it, and the reason why I think it's even valuable to land, because the moving that out of core is not actually the most important thing that PR does. The most important thing is it actually moves the settings API from the main Express application instance into its own smaller namespace, which means we can get rid of the overloading of .get. So that is the actually important user-facing change to land, is that things like your well, all the settings, so all the view render settings, a lot of people will do like app.set engine, to handlebars or whatever, right? Those things would be changed to be app.settings.set and app.settings.get, so that then .get is just the HTTP handler method, not an overloaded settings getter and middleware, route handler. So that was the other option, would be to open a new PR that just does that instead of the extraction that I did, which is also pretty easy to do. I could convert. Well, actually, I'd probably use the same PR and just convert it because there's a ton of spots that I had to do like a search and replace to fix all the tests. So that's the thing. There's two ways we could go to still land this. I mean, the third is just not land it. But I think in the effort of just cleaning up the APIs, this is probably worth it. So I just thought I think that the idea here was just to raise the discussion and say, does anybody have a particularly strong opinion of which direction we should go with it?
At least myself, I don't have any strong opinion, honestly. But I think it should be part of 5. That's definitely so. Yeah, but not sure which one of the two options is the best one.
If no
Was
one
your,
has,
was your question
go
if
ahead.
should we use the library or just? I'm sorry, I missed the core of your question specifically.
Yeah, I guess actually I left off just using the library. So technically there are 4 options. One is like we agree we do want to land it, so that will cross off. One is use the PR as is, where it is a library published under my personal NPM scope. Which I think the upside is that it's pretty much ready to land as is. Then the downside is obviously that I'd have that, piece, and we'd have to decide if we want to migrate it into the org or whatever sometime in the future. The third option is move the library code as is into the Express repo, which is a little bit easier because I just copy and paste the files over. Then the fourth option, which is to instead leave the code all as it was, but just make the API change so that it's got settings. Like, so it's, app.settings. Whatever, which we can do independent of moving the code around. Like the code didn't need to get extracted to make that API change happen. Is that more clear?
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I like the app.settings namespace for this a lot. Like, definitely. Because specifically, like the app.get is annoying. The conflation and the overloading of the function that we do there, basically. Can you open a PR with at least just the app.settings namespace change?
Yeah, I can do that. I think that is.
My point here is like I think it'd be useful to land that functional change in V5 so we can test it, see how we like it, see if it is a bad idea for some reason, which I don't think it would be. And then I don't care what the implementation of it underneath is, basically. You know what I'm saying?
Chris.
I don't mind the additional overhead that an additional package brings if we are getting some benefit from it. But in this case, I'm finding it hard to see why we would want to have it as a separate package, like what we're getting out of that. So go ahead, Wes.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. When I wrote it, which I do not think that is applicable anymore, it was because I wanted to use it in the browser. So at the time I had our thing was a isomorphic React Express deal, and I wanted to have, so I had written up like a fake looking set of Express APIs that functioned in the browser so that our code could work both places. The idea with extracting this library was that it achieved that goal for me. So if we as a group ever wanted to be capable of doing something like a Next.js style framework, then extracting it would mean that we can use the same code in whatever front-end user application. It's like the BYOF. You know how Pillar.js, the whole name of the org, description of the org is bring your own framework. This was the benefit to us would be that it would be in line with that ideal. Now, I'm not sure I believe in that ideal anymore. So, maybe we say that's not super important to us. But we do have a bunch of libraries that are used by Happy and Koa and all that. that are up that, that route, that architectural route that was decided on many years ago. So that would be the proposed benefit.
Right. So in this case, it's less clear that there's anything immediate. So I would invoke the Yagni principle, which is you ain't gonna need it, which is if we're let's not build the thing for a future that we don't know is coming. Um, and so we can always do it later. If the need arises and that, we really want to do that, let's go ahead and unarchive your repo, or I don't even know if it's archived right now, but yeah, we can cross that bridge later. And then I think just make the API change within Express itself and call it a day. What do you think?
That's where I land.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, let's serve ourselves first, and if it's needed as a package later, somebody can spin it out, and then we can do that if we need to in Express.
Sounds good. Then I can make that change here, and we can move this one from new to, I guess, back up to the above section.
Yep.
Wait, decision made. Sorry.
Decision made or moving pendings if you want.
Yeah, pending. I think that's where we need it, right? Pending.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, the next two ones are from mine. So yeah, first one was like from Express 3 to 4, we take the decision to move a lot of middleware that were part of the core of Express outside, like body parser and stuff like that. But there is one remaining, which is the Express static. The idea is, do we want to keep it for the version 5, or do we want to remove it and make it optional as a package that you can just import and use as you use for other things?
What's the reference? Sorry, I didn't
Oh, the
have it.
reference is the documentation for what the static does, but it basically is just open a static in terms of you can just basically pass a folder with some, the path to the folder with some options, and you just basically get a static. So for example, if you
Right.
have your
Like, yeah.
CSS or whatever, you just serve it.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no, sorry. I'm totally familiar with the method. I didn't know that. I pulled it up now. The Express 5.0 issue, and can see what the link is now. I thought it might have been to like an issue or something like that, but I guess then I would have seen the GitHubified version of it. So I thought there was might have been a link to like a discussion or something.
Yeah. No. I
That is
want
not
to
the
start
case.
the discussion first here. So basically, yeah.
This would okay, so this would be a 5 thing because it would be a breaking change. So if it's
Yeah,
not
it's a
5,
major.
if it's not in 5, it would be 6. I don't know. I might be biased because I make use of static like all the time. Like in fact, probably more often than not, if I'm loading up Express, it's doing
Yeah.
serving something as static. So I may not be the best person to give an opinion on this. So I like it as a built-in. It seems like a core enough use case to me as a built-in. And there's massive usage of it, of course.
Yep.
And all of those people will now have to be part of their migration. And yeah, so sorry, I'm partially thinking out loud here. Like that's but I'll pause there because like what does a migration from 4 to 5 look like for most people right now? Probably minimal changes, if any, right? I mean, the big breaking change in 5 is node support. And then what are the other like big things? Because this would be a big one.
Well, it's not super updated, but at least we can get an idea. Yeah,
We're not changing or dropping many API methods or methods on Express itself. Basically, there's largely things that we deprecated that we're dropping, and it's more behavioral. So it's more about like what do these functions accept? rather than dropping functions or whatever, basically. So
Yeah.
this is one where somebody, if we dropped express.static, that would be, obviously people would have to fix that. So with that, I mean, I'm not concerned about bundle size for the backend framework particularly. That's not something that I'm
Yeah.
trying to optimize for. So like, basically with this, do we have a PR to do this open already? I don't think we do, which
No.
means I don't think anybody's begging for it. So I don't see benefit in trying to spin .static out. I think the point is that like we spun a lot of things out for reasons that I wasn't here for back in the day.
Yeah.
And this is one that we didn't spin out. Maybe there was a reference, maybe there's a reason why we didn't or whatever. But to complete the job, we could spin this one out, but I don't see a reason to do it basically. So
Okay.
I don't know if anybody else feels strongly about it.
Well,
Well,
I see Wes's hand.
Yeah, I raised my hand to make or to ask here. I am not sure we're all on the same page on what we mean here by spinning things out, and what was done in the past here. So if you look, the Express 5 branch does the same thing that it did for all of the other things like static and body parser. It's a little bit, the files are a little bit different because some things were moved around and whatnot. But what would it mean here? Or what is an example of one that we're saying was spun out that we're like completing the job for? Which was, I think, the quote here. I just want to make sure I'm clear, like what we're talking about. Because it is already a separate module. Serve static exists.
Yep.
Yep.
It always has, as far as I remember. So I'm always has since 4, back in the day. So I'm just not sure, like, what's the corresponding thing that we did spin out in 5 that we're like saying we would do the similar thing to serve static.
I don't remember if it was 5, but like body parser is the example. It used to always be canonically express.body parser or express.json, I think. And I think that's still in for express.json with like a deprecation notice or something. So they're spun out. It's just they're not batteries included, like shipped as part of the library, like via API service of the library itself. So
yeah, but it is still in 5. Express.json is still body parser.json.
Right.
In V5 and V4. So that's why I'm just not sure exactly what we would change, what the proposed changes here.
Okay, so so it sounds like you're saying we don't seem to have a compelling reason for this.
Yep.
Which is fair. The other thing I want to add to that is I think there's like, and it's good to bring these things up, like, hey, if we miss the boat on 5 or breaking change, then we got to go to 6. But I think there's like, there might be a little bit of a tendency to put some more weight on that than maybe should be, just because 5 has taken so long. But I feel like 6, and the discussions about LTS and how release strategy are a bigger kettle of fish that we still haven't figured out. But I think we're all in alignment that we don't want to wait. We'll be seeing version 6 in less than 10 years. And so the needing to like not miss the train on 5 for breaking changes is hopefully not as strong of a thing. Of course, anything that we have a compelling reason to get it in, like, yeah, let's absolutely do it.
Okay.
But it's sounding like this is probably not in that category. Blake.
I would like to play devil's advocate and say that some of the stuff should be removed from Express core, because right now there is a tendency where we have, like, we just talked about the settings module where we kind of initialize things in like a roundabout way, which can be unclear. So if you ever actually want to change your serve static settings, I actually don't know how to do that. Maybe there's a setting that you can initialize somewhere and then pass it around, and then it changes how serve static initializes. But there are packages like serve static which can benefit from being initialized once instead of many times, which means you need a way for those settings to come from the app initialization to initializing that module once, which means you do some lazy loading, which means you have all these like workarounds when it would be a lot easier for someone just to be like require serve static with the settings they want.
Makes sense, Blake. Yeah. That's a very good
I
point.
think-
Yeah.
I think you still can. I don't want to solutionize on this too hard or anything, but I think you still can, because I think express.static is just it takes some configuration options and then like returns a middleware. So you could basically just opt out of using express.static and just create one middleware that you pass around or whatever, basically. But yeah, I mean, good point though. It's like I don't, in terms of the configuration story for those kind of things, I'm not sure what it looks like, but I'm looking at an example right now, and it's like express.static. You pass it a string name for a folder, and then an options object, and you app.use that, and then it returns a configured middleware.
Yeah, so the way I've seen people do the
Yep.
dynamic configuration setups is basically have a function wrapper that calls serve static with the proper options based on the incoming request. I think, Blake, that's what you were talking about there with that, and it does end up initializing the serve static middleware for every request, which is a pretty poor performance characteristic. That said, I think the real question that we would want to answer before we start making decisions on this is how we see the APIs that we expose in the future. Is Express a batteries included framework, or is it a foundation for an HTTP server, right? And I think traditionally it has been a little bit of both. And if we want to pick a lane, I think we should, think about that holistically and then make decisions based off like a goal, rather than just like one-off these, because if we decide today to, like, for example, if we decided to, I'm not saying we're doing that, but let's say we decided to drop that, serve static export, then like somebody comes to us in a PR and says, well, hey, I saw that you did this for that, let's do it for body parser. Like, that's a massive ecosystem breaking change. Are we sure we want that? And are we sure that's what's best for our users? I have some opinions there, but like, I don't want to, muddy the water on that. Do we think that that's the conversation we need to have before V5? Because I personally don't think we should have that for V5. I think V5, we stick with what we've got, and then we can have that discussion for V6 and later would be, I think, my ideal, just because that we've already got too much going on, and this is a fairly large one. So if we want to make a direction change on it, I think we should be pretty intentional.
Yep, that's a super fair point. I think it's clear for me at this point that probably this one and the next one that was also talking about the REST render option, because I see a lot of people building APIs and maybe not using the server render anymore. So maybe that's something to discuss on how we want to achieve this like in the future. So for me, it's okay. I mean, we can skip the opportunity to make changes for this in 5 in order to first ship it 5 faster. And also to think about in the future, like what is the strategy of the framework, like in a long-term vision. So that's fully okay for me. But yeah, I think that's my summary for that. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I don't remember what I was going to say now, but in the meantime, I was just trying to look up, and obviously, like, what was discussed in the past is stuff in the past, but for historical interested parties, there are a couple of issues talking about the removal of express static, dating back to 2014, so it's 10 years ago. And then another and also talks a little bit about static.
You cut out a little bit. It sounds like you're talking about historical issues.
Yeah, so the one, I pasted 2 issues in GitHub. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yep.
And one, it may be worthwhile to consider why static was deliberately left in, whereas all the other built-in middleware was removed. It's going back in time, and obviously doesn't necessarily have to dictate what we do in the future, but there might have
it's good
been
to have the
compelling
context.
reasons that may still be valid today that to leave in. That's all.
Okay. Okay, that's good. I think the last point on the discussion, I think also was for me. It's like I see a pull request made by someone to update the book library, which is not going to work in version 4, obviously, because it was not compatible because the minimum Node.js version supported, but it's going to work on 5. So the question is, should we upgrade the dependencies that we have in the version 5? At least until the point that we are still compatible with Node 18 as agreed in the past. So I can create some pre-apps to update our dependencies, that the ones that are not from ours, like the book and maybe others that we have. Sounds like a good idea. Anybody's against that?
Right now, what version of debug do we use? 2?
Yep.
Yeah,
Think
but
so.
there is an option to, I mean, in 5 is different. Let me see. In 5, yeah, this one. This one is for 5. So yeah, in 5 we use
responsive.
3.1. The idea is maybe jump to 4.3. We can because now minimum is Node 18. I mean Node 18 in Express 5. So this would be fine.
I am in favor of upgrading everything unless a major has a breaking change that would be prohibitive for us
Yeah,
to adopt.
fair point.
Yeah, I'm looking at the debug. I mean, this is the hard part about it is like, what changes besides what changes come in with these basically. But I dropped the V4 debug release, and it's largely node version. There's some very small changes, but I think it's safe to take basically in terms of in 5. Like, I think debug's gonna work exactly the same way. It's just we're gonna get a more modern version of it. Like for context, their V4 dropped Node 4 support, so it's not like they've been moving that fast or anything. But
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think the version 4.3 or something was working. Well, I cannot sit here, but was working until 6 is running, but anything before 6 is not running. But yeah, I was checking the changelog also in terms of the APIs and debug and stuff is more or less the same thing. So it's kind of safe to say. But the question is like if we should go and check other dependencies that we have here that are not controlled by us, that we might want to make some changes, upgrade, and so on. Like I don't know, QS, for example, if needed, or I don't know, there are some here that are not from us. Maybe one's also is not from us, so maybe we can just check it and so on. And also to check maybe if some of these dependencies we can get removed because we are using a higher version of of Node, and then we don't need maybe some of the features and we can just type it natively. So, but yeah, that was my idea. So I think like my understanding is like nobody's against of upgrading dependencies to any specific reason, just to be cautious, right? When I create the PRs to see the full changelog and stuff, right?
yeah,
Okay.
that's how I feel
Okay.
at least. So
Yeah,
I
that
forgot I
was
was
my
taking
feeling.
minutes.
I just wanted to check. So yeah, I think we are okay for Express 5 last push. Should we change to Hero Devs, or is anything else that we want to discuss on this topic?
I don't have anything V5 specific right now. I mean, just like, I don't know, I'll say this out loud. I probably said it before, but I just wrote myself a sticky note, which is what even is Express V5? What's changing? What is the goal? In terms of like, I need to wrap my head around specifically, like, here's like building an example app in 4 and 5 and check and being sure I understand the migration pattern. Because my understanding is that it's largely function stuff. But like I keep losing track of that. And so I need to make sure I'm super focused on that, because somebody opened a PR recently, which was switching like the default query string parser to URL search params. And like, I think it's a really good idea. It's just, there's, a whole can of worms in terms of like the way that particular API handles things that are different from the previously default of, I think, query string from Node, stuff like that. Like I would love to get that in. I think those kind of additions are really good, assuming we can find a way to make it not like a complete nightmare to migrate basically, but stuff like that, like it would be cool to have a better view for me personally on like what cool new features are coming to 5 beyond just node updates.
Yep.
I'm happy to see if it's just largely node updates and dropping crazy overloads of functions. I'm super happy with that too. But I just want to make sure that I understand, like, you know, how do we know when we're done? Basically, we have our V5 to-do list right now, and I'm like, ooh, I want to add that to the V5's stuff, but I'm like, I don't know that that is productive to say, oh, I would like to make this get in, but you know, it's not on our cut list, so you know, it's not going to stop V5. But that's just a thing that, like, I think I'll try to spend some time to do that for myself, to like just make sure I understand the changelog of like what is actually changing.
That's a fair point. There is some stuff. I mean, there are 2 initiatives that are related to that one that might be interesting if you are doing that work. So first of all, there is like an option to add a blog post about V5, explain what's the new things and so on. So that can be a good option that you can contribute. The other thing here is like I tried to create like a issue here where you can see like more or less what has been changing in the last 10 years in terms of changelog and stuff. And you have some like emojis here to see like stuff that was included, not included, stuff that was ignored in the migration guide or in the API website for the version 5 and so on. And there is a lot of need for good understanding and logging this. I mean, for example, it's not even well documented how to use promises on V5 in the handlers, for example. Like it's all still using callbacks and stuff. So there's plenty of things that we should be just documenting when we release 5, because otherwise nobody will really understand how this works. So, I mean, as I see that as soon as we start to thinking on the documentation as well, we are going to get a lot of, I mean, we are going to remove the potential bottleneck of, we have 5 in terms of code ready to be shipped, but it's not usable by the community because we don't have a good documentation. So that can be a little bit of a pain. Yeah, go ahead, Chris. I think you raised the hand before I start to speak, right? Even so I jump in the line. That's because, sorry.
Wes, you're on mute.
Oh yeah, I think I was gonna say, I think I made raise my hand first. So I just wanted to take a quick stab at John, your point of like, what is it? I frankly think that we should lean hard into the messaging that this is a us getting over a speed bump in the development, not something where we're trying to push users that there's like a bunch of great new features they should be adopting. I think we should lean into the messaging that just says, hey, development stalled. V5 is unstalling development. That is it. We hope we didn't break too much. You know, like we can like add like little messages around it, around like, you know, what why it is the way it is, and you know, we added this but not that, like that kind of stuff. But I think atypically for framework releases that you might see in the rest of the ecosystem, this one is not really very breaking, and it is really not about any of the features, like other than the one promise thing that people have been asking for. Like we didn't actually add hardly anything. So if we try to make a messaging around features and stuff, I think we're making a mistake to the community in the messaging, because they might not see what we see, right? And we need them to see that, because we are taking this project from a sole maintainer for, you know, almost 10 years, not sole for the whole 10 years, but, you know, one person really doing it, and bringing it back to being, you know, a group maintained thing that we are welcoming more members in, and we'll have a bunch of other stuff there. So like if we focus on the human part there and just say like, there's a new TC, look, we've had, you know, 6 or 7 people for the like past 3 months on the meetings. That never happened before. Like that to me is a lot more valuable for us to get that message out, to try to bring in new people to help make V6 a feature release, right? Like that to me would be a really good like story arc for us to message and say, V5 is not your big feature release. This is strictly us taking over the project and getting something out the door that should have been out the door 10 years ago. if you want to help, here's how you can make V6 awesome. Come, participate. We've got a whole bunch of features that need to get done. And if we just focus on that messaging, that to me is going to move the ball a lot more than us trying to make V5 sound exciting for some features, because they're just not there. I mean, intentionally so at this point, but does that help answer and clarify why?
Yeah, that helps a lot. I mean, I know that too in my mind. I just need to make sure I keep a sticky note in front of me that says that,
and see,
so I cannot forget it.
Yeah, you know it, but our users don't. Like, I'm
Yeah.
telling you, I have had so many conversations in the past 6 months or so where people have been very surprised that, we've been doing this work. They don't know it. And so the best way to get them to know it is to really focus on that when we do the V5 thing, because that's going to be the big news, right? And so that's like our big chance to get the messaging out, in my opinion. And so you needing a sticky note is one thing. These users need like trumpets blaring and like a big push to ever even have a chance of hearing this message. John, I think you're up.
So yeah, I do agree 100% with everything. And I think you said lately, but even in the past, since I know you, so it's 5 years now, Wes, I think, everyone was surprised that Express was not almost closely not maintained, that it was leaving thanks to its legacy and everything. And now that the initiative is starting, no one is aware of it. One big question that is open to everyone, there is today one CFP that is still open to everyone for the Node.conf EU. One, let's say today, one of the biggest conf in, I would say, Europe about Node.js and JavaScript, but I would say today mostly even global. Do we want to do something in November for that?
I would love to. Sorry, I'm skipping hands. I am just responding. Does anybody have was either of those hands direct response to this ask? Okay. I kind of thought not. I thought they were both up. I would love to. I actually have to give a talk in JSConf Columbia or City JS Columbia.
Yep, just 2 weeks before.
Yeah, I know. So, I've been on vacation, and so I haven't submitted, but I almost decided to. But I'd much rather have a group effort. Although I do need to have a standalone talk because I was invited to do that other one. I mean, I don't know if they would care if I invited you all. I'd have to ask. But I would love to do a group one if that was possible. If folks are interested in that, because I think that takes the weight off people's shoulders, because talk prep is a job in its own. So just throwing that out there, one way or the other, I'm giving a talk on this exact topic the week before in Columbia. So I'm happy to help.
You are muted, Jonathan.
I was just trying to say, like, yes, cool, but I think we should table Jean's question specifically for offline discussion. Basically, I think we should do something, but I think we got other hands and other discussions happening right now. So, but I'm super into that. Yeah. So.
Okay, maybe a Slack conversation for that then.
Yeah, I will just start a thread on Slack so we don't forget about that.
Okay, going back to Wes's point on the Express 5, should we drop other changes then? Like, do we even want to do your settings change? Is that necessary for the next version? Should I skip path to regex? I do like the framing of things that are back live, but how many things should we actually break then?
I had already went through and axed like those three. I think I had like 3 other PRs from it for that exact reason. So if we want to lean harder into that, that would shorten the timeline on us actually getting it done, which is definitely a good goal. Whether or not the settings thing is the tipping point where we call it or not, I think was up in the air. That was why I even added it to the discussion, was to say we can just not make that change. That is a viable option. It just means we still have that overloaded method that we have to deal with sometime. But in my opinion, I think that is a perfectly reasonable thing. And at that point, what does the list look like? If the list looks done by cutting that one, then it seems like we should just cut it and be starting on the docs.
I want to hear what Chris has to say, but I want to speak to what Blake has to say too. But I won't forget. So if you have any more, Blake, go ahead.
Nothing in particular. I was just thinking about that one because I reviewed Wes's PR and actually thought that we should do something else for settings entirely, and was like, you know, if we're going to break it again in 6, then why bother breaking it 5? So that is a separate discussion though.
Well, did you
So-
make that comment in the thread and I just haven't seen it? Maybe.
No. I've finally just reviewed the PR while we were talking about it and was like, actually, just related to my previous comment about like passing the settings around in this way. I wonder if we could actually just clean this up and get rid of settings. So that's like a separate discussion.
Oh yeah, but that answers this. Let's close that PR. Let's just close it. We don't even need. If we think there's a better way, because I agree that's not a great API in general. If we think there's a better way, I'm happy to close it. I don't think that moves the needle. Nobody's like banging on our doors for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want me just to close it right now then?
Sure, we can skip that one for 6 then.
Which PR?
The settings one specifically to namespace.
That would be a breaking change.
Right, but
Yeah.
the idea is we would replace it with a entirely new, better thought out settings API in the future.
Right, but even the immediate change would have been a breaking change.
Yeah,
It would have been 5.
But the
Go ahead,
idea is
Chris.
we're going to close the PR, so we don't even need to worry about whether it's a breaking change or not. We're just going to call it for now and just say that's staying as is.
Okay, is it tracked anywhere outside of the PR? Like, or
Yeah, it is in this issue. So I'll close it here and then I'll update the main tracking issue to remove it.
I was more, yeah, I know it's there. It's more a question of like, is it going to get lost and just slip through the cracks, or is there some other issue tracking that feature?
Idea.
Yeah.
He wants it in the backlog.
Yeah,
I can put it in the backlog after this.
What were you going to say, Chris, that you had a hand?
Yeah, I have a number of things. And that was one of them. So that's good. Yeah. And someone asked, like, they're kind of rude about it towards the bottom of this thread, where like, do you really need this? It's been 10 years. And like, we know how long it's been, but you know, and I just made a comment, try to be diplomatic, you know, make a comment that, you know, we've cut a bunch of things, we might cut some more things. I am totally fine with being ruthless with the initial pass, especially anything that's not like, oh, we absolutely need to get that in. And I know we did go through that exercise and eliminate a bunch of stuff. If we want to eliminate some more stuff, I'm fine with that as well. You know, for me, it's like on balance with, okay, if you leave it in, how close are we to getting it done? How stale are things? Like that Brotley PR, I think is like over 4 years old now. There's a bunch of conflicts. I haven't looked at the conflicts, but you know, if it's stale to do that nobody's getting to, then you know, I think that's more of a, there's more of a target on that to say, let's punt it because we're not in a good spot with it. Whereas if something's like ready to go, just needs to be merged, just needs a review, isn't going to cause a bunch of friction with somebody upgrading, which is another thing that I'm concerned about, then I think those are much easier to leave in. So yeah, those are my thoughts there. I also wanted to mention the generic body parser stuff. John, that was something we were talking about, but we had like nobody here. So we couldn't really get any other thoughts and opinions on that. Do we want to visit that at all now, or?
I don't think I want to talk a little bit more about this new thread we've opened just now, but basically I've been kicking, that's been, generic body parser has been on the back burner in my mind for weeks, basically been chewing on it. And what I think is like, I would love to land a generic implementation in 4 or in the current body parser release. Like that specific PR that we're talking about was like, add a generic parser so people can build their own parsers on top of it. But then we, like the same PR that person had originally created, refactored everything to then build on top of that. And so that's a much bigger change, essentially. I would love to see like a generic land. I've thought about just doing it that way. Land the generic, people can play with it, they can build stuff on top of it. And then in a future release, like once we've actually decided if we like, I don't like a lot of the patterns in that particular PR that somebody else opened, basically. So I was like, I like the idea of a generic, but I don't think we have the API locked down to then build everything on top of it, basically. I don't think it's crucial for like the next body parser release to refactor everything to use the generic, essentially. So, because I would love to do it with classes and inheritance and stuff. I think it kind of makes sense. So I've been playing with that one a lot, basically. So, yeah.
Okay, so should we remove that from this list?
Well, so yeah, probably. But so I wanted to go back to what Blake had said a minute ago, because this is interesting to me. Would we feel like it is, I want to speak to you specifically, Blake, about this, but like, if we decided just to do a V5 release, which was largely drop node versions and clean up some things that we thought were essential, like promise support, and some of the work we've already landed to like drop deprecated things from V4, maybe like I merged something to like we already deprecated in V4, like well, it doesn't matter. Drop things we deprecated in V4 and released already. How would you feel about that? I couldn't tell from what you said if you were exasperated by that thought, or if you thought that was something we might want to lean into. Like,
I think I don't have much of a preference either way. The idea of cutting everything and just doing a release is kind of nice because it does remove some friction of even developing new features. So there is something to be said for just going that direction. I don't have strong opinions, but if I have light opinions that, yeah, Wes is correct. We should just release and then deal with LTS plus on every new feature we build and make our lives easier.
Yeah, I think we're not going to figure this out in the next couple minutes we have here, but I think it's worth exploring what that would look like. Just doing a pure node version and like a pure Dust release, because yeah, there are so many things that make it, like even just converting everything from vars to const is like, we could do that in 5 and it would make a lot of things easier in terms of getting new developers and stuff like that. But Chris says he has 5. Would you guys be okay with shutting our recording off and talk about, I think, beliefs, probably security issues? Okay, looks like everybody's into it.
All right.